The unexpected encounter. The vast emptiness of space had always been a silent canvas of darkness, interrupted only by the occasional glimmer of distant stars. The Zoran exploratory vessel, a sleek crystalline structure that seemed to pulse with an inner light, glided through the uncharted regions of the Orion Nebula. Captain Arya Vex, a seasoned navigator of the Zoran Collective, watched the holographic displays with a mixture of curiosity and growing unease. Her species had long prided themselves on being the most advanced exploratory race in this sector of the galaxy. The Zoran were known for their ability to analyze, categorize, and ultimately understand any new species or phenomenon they encountered. Their biological technology allowed them to interface with nearly any known form of communication, and their diplomatic protocols were considered the most sophisticated in known space. Anomalous reading at coordinates 47 Gamma 9, announced Krell, the ship's primary sensor specialist. His translucent tendrils flickered with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Unknown vessel detected, composition unlike any previously recorded species. Captain Vex leaned forward, her multiple eyes focusing on the shimmering holographic representation. The unknown vessel was primitive by Zoran standards, all sharp angles and rough metallurgical construction. It didn't conform to any known spacefaring design they had ever encountered. No energy signatures matched their extensive database. It was both crude and somehow intentional. "Initiate first contact protocol," Vex commanded, her voice calm and measured. The Zoran had made contact with hundreds of emerging spacefaring civilizations. Each encounter followed a carefully scripted approach: assess, communicate, understand, and ultimately categorize. The communication beam shot out, a complex linguistic algorithm designed to establish basic communication parameters. It was a method that had worked flawlessly for thousands of years, breaking down language barriers with mathematical precision. Silence. Krell adjusted the communication frequencies. "No response, Captain. The vessel appears to be waiting." Just as Captain Vex was about to order a more aggressive communication attempt, something extraordinary happened. A single transmission cut through their systems, not in response to their communication, but seemingly of its own volition. "You are entering contested space," the message read. Simple, direct, unexpected. The Zoran crew exchanged glances. Contested? By whom? Their star charts showed this region as completely uncharted with no established territories. Before they could process this information, a secondary transmission followed. "Final warning, withdraw or prepare for engagement." Krell's tendrils began to tremble. "Captain, I'm detecting weapon systems powering up on the unknown vessel, but they're different, not energy-based. Some form of solid-state projectile technology we've never seen." Captain Vex's mind raced. This was not following any first contact scenario in their extensive historical records. Most emerging species were either terrified of advanced civilizations or eager to communicate. This vessel projected something entirely different, a sense of calm, calculated threat. "Maintain position," she ordered, though every instinct suggested retreat. "We are the Zoran Collective. We come to—" Her words were cut short as multiple high-velocity objects suddenly appeared on their sensor grid. Not energy weapons, not plasma, not antimatter, something more primitive, more deadly. Kinetic projectiles. In that moment, Captain Arya Vex realized they were about to learn something profound about the universe, and about a species they knew nothing about. They were about to learn about humans. Tactical response. The silence following the kinetic strike was deafening. Captain Arya Vex watched in disbelief as the holographic displays flickered, revealing minimal damage to their vessel. The projectiles had been precise, almost surgical in their approach, a warning rather than an all-out attack. "Damage report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the unprecedented situation. Krell's tendrils danced across the diagnostic interface. Minimal surface scoring, structural integrity at 98.7%. Those projectiles. They were intentionally calibrated to demonstrate capability without causing critical damage. The realization sent a chill through the Zoran bridge crew. This was no random encounter. This was a calculated demonstration of restraint and power. Before they could formulate a response, a new transmission cut through their communication systems. Unlike their previous sophisticated linguistic algorithms, this message was brutally simple. Final warning, withdraw from this sector immediately. Commander Zara, the ship's tactical specialist, leaned forward. Her crystalline exoskeleton shifted with tension. Captain, our standard protocols are ineffective. This species does not communicate like any we've encountered. They're not seeking dialogue. They're issuing an ultimatum. The human vessel remained motionless, a silent sentinel against the backdrop of distant stars. No additional weapon systems were visibly active, yet the threat was palpable. It was as if the ship itself was a statement, a physical manifestation of restrained potential. Captain Vex's mind raced. The Zoran Collective had made first contact with over 237 emerging spacefaring civilizations. They prided themselves on their ability to understand, categorize, and ultimately integrate new species into the broader galactic community. But this encounter defied every established protocol. "Scan their vessel," she ordered. "I want a comprehensive analysis." Krell's biocomputational systems began their intricate scan. Moments later, the results appeared, and even the most experienced crew members found themselves stunned. The human vessel was a technological paradox. Its construction suggested a species still reliant on primitive metallurgical techniques, yet its internal systems hinted at advanced computational capabilities far beyond their current understanding. The power distribution, the computational matrix, the defensive systems, everything suggested a civilization that was both young and incredibly sophisticated. "Captain," Krell's voice trembled slightly, "their technological integration is unlike anything in our records. It's as if they've developed advanced technology through an entirely different evolutionary path." A new transmission arrived. This time, a visual component accompanied the message. A human appeared on their screen, a female, wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. Her eyes were cold, calculating, devoid of the fear or excitement most species displayed during first contact. "You have two options," she stated, her voice a precise instrument of communication. "Withdraw from this sector or demonstrate why humanity has earned the right to be here." Commander Zara looked to Captain Vex. "Our diplomatic protocols are useless. They're not seeking understanding. They're issuing a challenge." Captain Vex understood then that this encounter was more than a simple first contact scenario. This was a test, a demonstration of a species that had clearly fought hard for its place in the universe, a civilization that did not ask for permission but demanded respect. The Zoran Collective was about to learn that some species do not wait to be discovered. Some species make themselves known. And humanity was making its presence felt. Escalation. Deep within the Zoran vessel's command center, a profound silence descended. Captain Arya Vex understood they were at a critical junction, one that would define their species' approach to this unprecedented encounter. The human transmission continued to echo through their communication systems. Not a threat, not a negotiation, but a challenge that hung in the void of space like a razor-thin line between diplomacy and conflict. Commander Zara's crystalline form trembled with a mixture of anxiety and professional curiosity. "We cannot simply retreat," she muttered, more to herself than to the captain. "Our entire first contact protocols are built on engagement, on understanding." Krell, the ship's primary sensor specialist, continued to analyze the human vessel. Each scan revealed new layers of complexity that defied their comprehensive database. The ship's technological signature was a paradox, seemingly primitive in its external construction, yet containing computational matrices that suggested capabilities far beyond their comprehension. "Captain," Krell announced, his translucent tendrils pulsing with excitement, "I'm detecting multiple communication layers within their transmission. It's not just a simple message, it's a multi-dimensional communication strategy." Arya Vex leaned forward. This was unprecedented. Most emerging species communicated in straightforward, often desperate attempts at contact. This human vessel projected something entirely different, a calculated, almost predatory intelligence. Suddenly, the ship's primary communication array began to receive a series of complex data packets. Not a standard communication protocol, but something far more intricate. Mathematical sequences intertwined with what appeared to be linguistic patterns, technological schematics, and something else, something the Zoran had never encountered before. It's a test, Commander Zara realized aloud. They're not just warning us, they're evaluating our response capabilities. The data packets began to reveal fragments of information. Glimpses of human technological development, strategic military protocols, and something that made the entire Zoran bridge crew collectively pause, a comprehensive record of human conflict resolution. Not just warfare, but the intricate dance of diplomacy, technological adaptation, and survival that had defined human progress. A new transmission cut through their systems. The same female officer from the previous communication appeared, her image crisp and unnervingly clear. "You have precisely 3 standard galactic time units to demonstrate your intentions," she stated. Her voice carried no emotion, no hint of aggression, simply a clinical, precise directive. "Withdraw or prepare for a comprehensive demonstration of human capabilities." Captain Vex understood then that this was more than a first contact scenario. This was a carefully orchestrated introduction. Humanity was not seeking approval. They were establishing boundaries. Krell's sensors began to detect additional anomalies. Multiple quantum entanglement signatures were emerging from the human vessel communication networks that suggested a technological infrastructure far more complex than their initial scans had revealed. "They're connected," Krell whispered, "not just to their vessel but to something larger, a network that extends beyond this immediate space." Commander Zara looked to Captain Vex. The challenge was clear. The Zoran collective could retreat, preserving their diplomatic reputation but admitting technological inferiority. Or they could stand their ground and potentially face consequences they couldn't yet comprehend. The void of space seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the Zoran's response. Humanity had made its first move, and it was unlike anything the galactic community had ever witnessed. Unexpected capabilities. The tension aboard the Zoran vessel reached a critical point. Captain Arya Vex watched as the quantum communication networks from the human vessel began to pulse with an increasingly complex rhythm. It was no longer just a communication. It was a living, breathing technological ecosystem. "They're doing something," Krell announced, his translucent tendrils vibrating with a mixture of fear and fascination. "The communication patterns, they're not just sending data, they're transforming our own communication systems." Commander Zara moved closer to the primary display. "Transforming? That's impossible." But it was happening. The quantum entanglement signatures began to spread, like tendrils of intelligent light weaving through the Zoran vessel's most secure communication matrices. What had initially appeared to be a simple transmission was now revealing itself as something far more sophisticated. The female officer from previous transmissions appeared again on their screens. This time, her expression carried a hint of what might have been amusement, though it was so fleeting that it could have been a trick of the light. "We've noted your hesitation," she said. "Allow us to provide some clarity." Suddenly, the Zoran vessel's internal systems began to shift, not through any physical intervention, but through the quantum communication network that had spread throughout their ship. Diagnostic screens began to display information, not just about the human vessel, but about the Zoran ship itself. Hidden system vulnerabilities, inefficiencies in their computational matrices, potential improvements to their life support systems that the Zoran engineers had overlooked for generations. "This is impossible," Commander Zara whispered. "They're not just communicating, they're analyzing us." Krell's sensors went into overdrive. The quantum network is bidirectional. They're not just sending information, they're learning, adapting, improving our own systems in real time. Captain Vex understood then that this was no ordinary first contact. This was a comprehensive systems assessment, a technological probe that went far beyond traditional reconnaissance. The human transmission continued. "We do not seek conflict," the officer stated. "We seek understanding, but understanding for our species is not passive, it is active, transformative." More data began to flood their systems. Historical records, technological developments, a comprehensive overview of human expansion and adaptation that painted a picture of a species defined by its ability to learn, grow, and overcome. Most striking was not the information itself, but how it was presented. Each data packet was a puzzle, a challenge. The humans were not just sharing information. They were inviting the Zoran to engage, to match their level of technological and intellectual curiosity. "Three options," the transmission continued. "Retreat, engage in meaningful exchange, or be rendered obsolete by your own technological limitations." Commander Zara looked to Captain Vex. The challenge was clear. Humanity was offering more than a first contact. They were offering a technological evolution. The void of space seemed to pulse with potential. The Zoran collective found themselves at a crossroads they had never anticipated. This was not an encounter between two species. This was a technological awakening. The collective response. Light years away from the initial encounter, the Zoran Collective's Central Council convened an emergency session. The transmission from Captain Arya Vex's vessel had sent shockwaves through their entire governmental structure. For the first time in their species' documented history, they faced an encounter that defied every established protocol of first contact. Archcounselor Voran, the eldest and most respected member of the collective, studied the compiled data with a mixture of trepidation and reluctant admiration. The human technological intervention was nothing short of revolutionary. They had not just communicated with the Zoran vessel. They had fundamentally analyzed, understood, and begun to optimize its systems in a matter of moments. "This is unprecedented," murmured Delegate Tara, her crystalline form shifting with nervous energy. "They didn't seek to destroy, they sought to improve." The holographic displays showed multiple layers of the human intervention. Where the Zorans saw potential vulnerabilities, the humans had already begun to suggest improvements. Their communication was not just an exchange of information, but a comprehensive systems audit that bordered on technological symbiosis. Archcounselor Voran's multiple eyes focused on a series of data streams. The humans had not only identified inefficiencies in the Zorans' quantum communication networks, but had provided potential solutions that would take their species decades to develop independently. "They're offering us a technological leap," Voran stated, his voice a mixture of wonder and caution. "But at what cost?" The question hung in the council chamber like a tangible presence. The Zoran had always prided themselves on their methodical approach to technological development. Each advancement was carefully studied, meticulously implemented, with generations of research behind every significant change. The humans were offering something entirely different. A sudden, transformative leap that challenged everything the Zoran understood about technological progress. A new transmission arrived, not from the human vessel that had encountered Captain Vex, but from a different source. The communication matrix was complex, multi-layered, suggesting a technological infrastructure far more extensive than their initial encounter had revealed. "We do not seek conquest," the transmission began. "We seek evolution, not just for ourselves, but for those we encounter." The holographic displays began to populate with data. Historical records of human technological development that painted a startling picture. A species that had gone from basic mechanical tools to quantum computing in a fraction of the time it had taken other known civilizations. A civilization that viewed technological progress not as a linear path, but as an adaptive, living system. Delegate Tara leaned forward. "They're offering us a choice, not submission, not conquest, but collaborative advancement." Archcounselor Voran understood the profound nature of this moment. The Zoran Collective had encountered numerous species in their extensive exploration. Some were primitive, some were advanced. But none had presented themselves with such a combination of restraint, intelligence, and transformative potential. "We are not asking for permission," the human transmission continued. "We are extending an invitation to evolve." The council chamber fell silent. The humans had not fired a single weapon. They had not made a single threat. Yet they had fundamentally altered the dynamics of first contact in a way no species had ever done before. Humanity was not just introducing itself to the galaxy. It was rewriting the rules of engagement. Technological Odyssey. Deep within the human research facility on Europa Station, Dr. Elena Rodriguez studied the incoming data from the Zoran encounter. Her team represented humanity's most advanced first contact specialists, a group that was part diplomatic corps, part technological innovation unit, and part strategic defense team. "They're analyzing our analysis," she muttered, watching the complex quantum communication patterns dance across her holographic displays. The Zorans' response to their initial contact was precisely what her team had anticipated: confusion, followed by curiosity. Commander Jack Harper, her longtime partner in these extraordinary missions, leaned against the communication console. "Not a single weapon fired," he observed. "Not a single aggressive move, just pure, unbridled technological exchange." The Europa Station was humanity's most advanced extrasolar research facility. Built into the ice-covered moon of Jupiter, it represented the pinnacle of human technological adaptation. Entire sections could reconfigure themselves based on mission parameters, with quantum computing systems that could predict and adapt to potential scenarios with frightening accuracy. Elena's fingers danced across the holographic interface, pulling up layers of data from the Zoran encounter. What the alien species didn't realize was that this entire interaction was a carefully orchestrated demonstration. Humanity wasn't just making first contact. They were conducting a comprehensive assessment of galactic technological potential. "Look at their reaction," she pointed to a series of data streams. "They're approaching this like a scientific experiment, cautious, analytical, but completely unprepared for the depth of our technological approach." The human strategy was complex. Unlike other species that sought immediate territorial expansion or resource acquisition, humanity had developed a different approach to galactic exploration. They were collectors of knowledge, transformers of technological potential. Commander Harper chuckled. "Remember the Mars Protocol?" Elena nodded. The Mars Protocol was a classified initiative that had fundamentally reshaped humanity's approach to technological development. Developed in the aftermath of humanity's near-extinction event in the mid-21st century, it transformed their entire species' approach to survival, innovation, and exploration. The protocol was simple yet revolutionary. Every technological advancement must serve multiple purposes. Every system must be adaptable. Every solution must create more potential than the problem it solved. The Zoran were about to experience the full manifestation of that protocol. "Prepare the next phase," Elena commanded. A series of quantum communication matrices began to activate, each one a complex ecosystem of information and potential technological transformation. The humans weren't just sharing technology. They were offering a template for evolutionary advancement. A new transmission prepared to launch, not just to the Zoran, but to potential observers across multiple star systems. A message that would resonate far beyond a simple first contact scenario. Humanity was entering the galactic stage, and they were rewriting every rule of engagement.